Great. Yeah, I just started recording. So welcome everyone to our CWAE business meeting this year. Thanks a lot for joining us. I'm Joyce Chen. I'm the chair, outgoing chair. Valerie Mueller is our incoming chair. She wasn't able to join us today. And I'll let other folks go around and introduce themselves as well. I'm at Ohio State and Valerie's at Arizona State. Satya.
Hi, I'm Satya Gopalakrishnan. I'm also at Ohio State, and I think I'm the chair-elect for the next year.
Thanks. Kelly?
I'm Kelly Grogan. I am the outgoing past chair, and I'm from University of Florida.
Aryan Ishtor, I think hasn't, I don't know if she's not there, is she, Kelly? Is our incoming secretary treasurer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm Marion Ishtorch and incoming treasurer secretary. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you. Well, I'll see you again. Aparna Holiday is our outgoing secretary treasurer. And then if folks just want to go around quickly and introduce themselves, that would be great. I guess I could just call on.
I was going to say, I'm Semanti Banerjee from University of Nebraska, Lincoln. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate Snyder. Sorry, I'm on a slow internet connection. I'm from Johns Hopkins.
Leah.
Hi, I'm Leah Plum-Forster, University of Delaware.
Hi. Vicki.
Vicki Salen, Texas A&M University.
Semla.
Hi, Signa Tokyo's International Food Policy Research Institute. Nice to meet you all.
Zoe.
Hi there, I'm Zoe Plakius, Assistant Professor at The Ohio State University with Satya and Joyce.
Sylvia.
Hi, I'm Sylvia Blum. I'm an incoming postdoc at Notre Dame.
Okay. Anna.
I'm Anna Josephson. I'm at the University of Arizona. I'm in the room.
Oh, okay. Great. And other folks in the room, Kelly, do you have?
I don't know the best way to do this. We're not super mobile. Yeah, if you want to come over.
498-779.
Get it in the
I feel like this is real high flex.
Yes. If you're joining in the room, make sure your speakers are turned off. Otherwise, we're gonna have a lot of sound. All right. Who wants? Yeah, go for it.
Hi, I'm Jackie and I'm at the University of Tennessee. I'm right in Wyoming.
Don't be shy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christina Biedny. I'm a student at Oklahoma State.
Hi.
Hi, I'm April Athens. I'm a PhD candidate at Michigan State University.
Hello, I'm Madhu Khanna, University of Illinois and incoming president.
Thanks for joining.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lori, and I'm a student at the University of Florida.
I'm Dawn Thomany. Dawn Thomany, president and professor at Colorado State University.
Thanks for joining us.
Hi, I'm Steer Howery. I'm at the University of Wisconsin River Falls. I'm an associate professor and then the director of the McNair program.
All right, I think we have everyone who's here.
Great. Welcome, everyone. So we'll just go around first with some activity updates. So we'll start with our, we had 4 subcommittees this year, and chairs of those subcommittees can tell us a little bit about their activities this year. They've done an amazing job and put together some really amazing programming and new developments for CWAE this year. So I'm really, really grateful for all of their efforts. So we can start with Zoe Plakius, who is the co-chair of our CWAE Awards Committee.
Hi there, thanks Joyce. So yes, I was the co-chair of the CWAE Awards Committee with Valentina Hartarska, who I don't think could make it today. And our other members are Kate Schneider, Kelly Gruen, who are both here, and Annika IR. This year, we put together a proposal for new Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Awards organized by CWAE, but open to all AAEA members. I'm grateful to the board of AAEA for approving those awards. And then we then also served as a selection committee and put together a process, and then went ahead and selected, put out the call for nominations, and then selected folks as our winners. And I'm very excited to be celebrating them later today at our plenary session, and then also at the luncheon. And so that's basically the update. I'm sure you stick around for the plenary session for all of the info about the awardees.
And at the reception.
Oh, at the reception. Sorry, it's bounced around a little bit.
I know.
Defer to Joyce on all logistics.
Thank you. We also had a nominations committee that Valerie Mueller, Lori Univer, and Mary Bowman helped out with, looking at how we can get more women nominated for AAEA Fellow and for other association level awards. So they did a couple of 2 really great things this year that I want to highlight, were one, putting together a letter of recommendation for Yetta Rusin, who was recognized as an AAEA Fellow this year. And then also, if you haven't seen it already, they put together a really lovely webinar on how and why to apply for professional awards. So to hopefully encourage women to all advocate for ourselves, right, and get our names out there for awards. Next, we can turn to Simla for our social media committee.
Sorry, technology. So I am part of the social media committee for the CWAE. We are 4 people. Kemi, Ryan, and I are doing the connection between the leadership team and the social media committee. So we divided into different sections. What we are trying to do, we are promoting young professionals, people who are postdocs or assistant professors, or just very late, like last year graduate students. We are also promoting senior agricultural economists, and then we are promoting also female economists who have been historically done some significant work. And then we have another promotion for like articles, etc., or events that female economists have been involved in. So we do have these things in a very regular basis. We do have weekly schedule for these promotions through the social media. But this year we have also added the promotion of the job market candidates, people who are members of the CWAE. So we are promoting them in 2 ways. One of them is in the fall, because some people will go to the Economics Association job market, and some people will go this summer to the AAEA job market papers. So it has been quite effective. We have interacted quite a lot with other sections in the AAEA. So if you guys are interested in promoting yourself, please reach out to us, because we definitely see a deficiency in terms of, you know, female economists promoting themselves. So please reach out. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll come back to that topic again later on. We want to make sure that we are getting all of the women of AAEA and CWAE into AAEA members in the news and getting them the exposure that they deserve. So that'll be something we talk about for the future. Jane Kotlinski put together all of our 40th anniversary celebratory activities for the annual meeting. So you'll see, I'll go over that along with the other events that we have coming up during the meeting. We have this afternoon, or I guess evening, there we have the 40th anniversary plenary joint with CWAE that Kelly Grogan also has done a bunch of work on and is going to be really exciting. And immediately following that, we'll have our reception that will have a toast. It'll be a really lovely champagne toast and nice cupcakes to celebrate our 40th anniversaries. Then we'll have and we'll announce our award winners there and have a video highlighting them. Tomorrow we have, looks like 4 track sessions, one for advancement of women as innovators and contributors to the global food system, for which we've also been able to get a special issue with AAPP. So we're really excited about that set of papers as well. A session joint with graduate student section on grants and applied econ. And then our luncheon joint with CWAE tomorrow as well. And they have a really great, CWAE has a really great speaker from USDA lined up for that. Then our final session tomorrow will be on promotion and tenure during COVID-19, joint with the environmental section, with department chairs talking more about how to reflect on productivity during the pandemic and, thinking about how we can accommodate folks who've been affected, well, all of us. And then on Tuesday, we have a joint session with CWAE, 2 different joint sessions with CWAE, actually looking at mentoring initiatives, and then also our Sylvia Lane mentees and mentors. And then we have one for our 40th anniversary that has women's narratives. So a range of women reflecting on their times with CWAE and with AAEA and sort of future directions for the profession. So hopefully you can join us for some of those events. I'm really excited for those. I can pause there if there are any questions about any events or any of the subcommittee activities. Okay, yes, then we can turn over to Anna Josephson, who has been chairing our diversity and climate survey efforts. And you'll hear more about the results of those surveys.
Oh, right here. Yeah. Oh, cool.
Plenary.
Sorry, we're trying to get some closed caption action going on.
Oh, okay.
Thank
you. Yes, thank you.
There we go. Hey, everybody. Cool. So I will give our survey update. So we have decided to delay. We had intended to send out another round this year, but after reflecting a little on our survey instrument and getting some feedback from diversity and inclusion offices at a few of our universities, we've decided to wait a year and send the next round out in 2022 rather than 2021. So we're in the process of updating that survey and continuing that work, but we have a tangential simultaneous mission that we're looking to undertake in the next year, which is formally institutionalizing the group who's been doing this work. Right now it's a little ad hoc with a few folks from CWAE and a few folks from CWAE, and we want to make it a little more formal. And so we are looking specifically for volunteers who are interested in the process of finding what will be an optimal solution to make this group a little more formal and making sure that it can have longevity into the years to come. So if you're interested in that or know someone who's really enthusiastic about institutionalization, that would be great. We also
what was the other? Oh, we're looking for money. If you have creative ideas of how to get some money for this work, we have a few kind of more formal grant mechanisms that we can pursue, talking to folks at USDA and at NIFA specifically. But if you have a really great connection with Cargill and you happen to know that they have $250,000 that they're just sitting on and want to give somebody, you could make us that somebody. So if you have those sorts of connections or creative ideas in that way, that would be great. Do we have other updates? I think it was just those two. So institutionalization and money. And you can feel free to email me. I'll type my email in the chat.
And I have to go with guys to the site.
Thank you, Don.
Sorry, can you just repeat what said in the audience?
Yeah, so Dawn had to leave for another meeting right now, but she said if we do go the USDA or NIFA route, she can give us some help and support there.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll just add the other thing I think that we're hoping to do with institutionalizing the survey is to make sure that we are transparent about who is participating, how you get to participate, what sort of engagement you're doing, and then what outputs you'll be associated with, and sort of what the what work you'll be responsible for. So always in the interest of increasing transparency. All right, so now we can turn to new and other business. So I'd like to invite our executive board rep, Madhu Khanna, to give us some updates from the board, please.
So is it okay if I just speak from here? Okay, all right. All right, well, I'm just gonna take this off for a little bit. Joyce, I can give an update on the things that were mentioned this morning. Okay.
Well, I'm always gonna come over here. We're getting feedback in the room. So a couple of updates. Firstly, our numbers in general for the association have kind of kept steady. They're a little bit down compared to within the 5-year range. And also the number of people that registered for this meeting are also, reasonably good, maybe just a couple hundred less than in the previous year. We have about 50% of the people participating in person and half virtually. So, it's been actually really good that we decided to, although of course in the last week or so or 2 weeks, we've had this resurgence and all the concerns, but in a way, from the association's perspective, it was really important for us to be able to do this, at least in part in person, because otherwise we would have had a really high financial commitment that we would not have been able to meet because the hotels would not have let us out of our commitment to them. So this way we are in a better position financially. Overall, just from a financial perspective, we despite the fact that we took a big hit in our not having our meetings last year and the revenue from that, and we still had to bear a lot of costs associated with preparing for it and hosting it virtually and so on. But despite that, we kind of were, we broke even because of overall with all our investment incomes and so on, in part because of our journal revenues that we got and the signing bonus that we got with joining Wiley. So that kind of kept us afloat. Going forward, it's something that we need to look into is what is going to be the new business model for hosting these meetings, if they're going to be partly hybrid, partly, if they're going to be hybrid, and so that, we can, we already have our commitments to the hotels, for the next few years. And so how we're going to do that is something that the board is going to
pay a lot of attention to, and we're going to think about alternative, good business models to do that. You might have already heard, but if not, the association is launching a new journal, which is going to be called the Journal of the Agriculture and Applied Economics Association, so Journal of AAEA, JAEA. And this is going to be a journal that is somewhat different from the an additional, it's a complement to the two the journals that we already have, AJA and AEPP, in that it's really going to be much more broad in terms of the coverage of topics, that'll be included. It's really intended to cover the breadth of what we do in the AEA. And we chose the name to signify the fact that the association is behind it, and it's an open access journal. Tim Beattie as the inaugural editor. We've got an agreement, or in the process of finalizing with Wiley to publish it, and the first issue is expected to be in March of 2022. So sometime in the fall, you can expect to see a call for papers and more details about submitting to this. It's going to sort of emphasize shorter articles, sort of 6,000 word articles that are going to go through a more rapid review process. And at the same time, it's also going to be set up so that there'll be like a transfer portal. So papers that you might have submitted to AJE or AEPP, and we're sort of working to see, how we can expand the network to other Wiley AgEcon type of journals, which were not successful at those journals. There would be an automatic mechanism for transferring the paper as is, along with the reviews, to this journal. And so that is intended to speed up the process, to reduce the review burden on already, overburdened reviewers. And in the event that that paper is going to go forward in this journal, then the editors will work with you to get it into the required format. And so the format is going to be more like the, if you've looked at Q Open, or if you've looked at AER Insights, these are shorter papers, emphasizing, they're just a slightly different style of writing, with the methods and so on kind of put more into appendices and supplementary information rather than being the center focus of the paper. The journal is intended to promote and to really go after more, sound science, and not necessarily try to, not necessarily try to look for methodological innovations and things like that. So it's sort of it's intended to have more of a high impact and bring out the new insights and findings from the research. So that's something. And in addition, I think there's sort of one of the motivations for this was the fact that we were seeing a lot of articles. The AJE and AEPP are limited because of the fact that the current models in terms of page budgets, in terms of how many articles they can accept. And so by moving into this open access format, we're hoping to be able to capture a lot of the papers that were good, but going off in other journals, because we did not have room for them, and we want to actually keep them, in the association. And then it's also expected to be good from a business model perspective, because this is really the future of where publishing is going. And so, so this is expected to be in about 3 years or so to actually start generating substantial revenues for the association. And our journals are really a major source, in addition to membership dues and registration fees, is one of our major sources of revenue for the association. So so it's been important for a number of reasons, and it's great to see that it's sort of finally coming to fruition. Another thing that I think is relevant for us for the
Sorry,
section,
Madhu, could I ask if
yes,
has the editorial board for
ahead.
the new journal been selected yet?
It is in the process of being selected. And so Tim is doing that, and I think he's already contacted several people. And according to him, we should all be pretty happy when we see it because of the diversity that it includes. So I think he's sensitive to the need for diversity.
Great.
Any other questions on that?
Oh, sorry, I heard Tim mention
Yeah.
that there'll be page charges for this journal.
Yeah.
Is there a mechanism, or have the editors thought about a mechanism yet for like folks from low income countries or who might have limited research budgets?
Yeah, so there will be paid charges for this, and we have negotiated with Wiley to provide a discount for our members. Not quite sure how much that is, but apparently it is going to be higher than the membership fees, so that it's going to be another mechanism for increasing our membership, and also a certain number of waivers for people from low income countries that might be submitting to us. So so we've really tried to push as much as possible to be able to get as what we could.
Thank you.
So another point that had been brought up by the sections in the past was that we need to have a way to archive the work that's being done by the sections, and have that carry over from one leadership group to another as as people transition out of the lost, and that the website was really not enough to store all that information. And so the AEA EDI has been exploring alternative platforms to be able to archive that information, and they've selected something called Basecamp, which is going to be made available in the coming months. And so, as in preparation for that, you could be thinking about what kinds of information and gathering the materials that you would like to store, and what kind of archiving you would like to do about the activities and processes and procedures for the CWAE that you would like to have preserved. There have been a few other changes to our awards criteria. In particular, our fellows committee was charged with looking at taking another look at the process for selecting fellows, as well as the number of fellows that the association should select every year. And so in order to make the process a little less random and more purposeful, and with some discussion, they've actually modified the process that they are going to be using. So instead of just having sort of a simple voting followed by tabulating the votes and going with the highest ranked people, it's going to be more where there's going to be initial voting and a short list, but then for this, each of the candidates on that short list is going to be assigned a champion within the committee, who is going to take a look at the their discussion about the candidates and the selection process, and also have all the diversity, equity, inclusion record of the person kind of weigh in, and in terms of the selection of the fellows, to have those considerations weigh in the choice of the fellows that are selected. Well, it could be in, so it's been added as an additional criteria for the selection, and that sort of would involve, I'm presuming, looking at how that person might have promoted diversity, equity, and inclusion through their careers, through their extension education and research activities, and I think just taking into account and paying attention to the diversity of the candidates being selected, so that we make sure that we know that there's a huge imbalance in the people that are selected, and so being more purposeful and being kind of recognizing that we need to that's an issue that we need to be aware of, and so and in that regard, the committee also took into account looked into the the number of fellows that should be selected and how AAEA does relative to our other organizations like in the other agricultural sciences and applied economics and other related sister associations. And what they found was that AAEA is a little bit low in terms of the number of fellows that we select as a percentage of our membership. And so for most of these associations, the number is closer to like 0.2% of the membership is selected as fellows. Ours was more like 0.14 or so. So, and it was related to the number of members that we had 20 years ago. So that's what determines, when you're looking at the number of fellows for a given year, it's based on the membership 20 years ago. And so as it turns out, 20 years ago in 2001 to 2008, we had a dip in our membership. And so if we were to continue to follow that formula, we would be down to about 4 fellows per year. Because we get such a large number of really, deserving applicants, that would just kind of build up the queue, and so that was not a desired outcome. It also put us as an ag economist or economists, it put us at a disadvantage in our colleges and departments, particularly in our colleges, because other associations, agronomy and soil science and so on, have this much higher number of fellows. And so we were just kind of doing ourselves a disservice by being extra stringent. So the recommendation now is to fix the number rather than associating that with the number of members, and to fix it at maximum of 6. So allow up to 6 fellows being selected every year. I think those are the major things that I have. I think it's great to see that all the program on mentor that sort of really overlap with what the mentoring careers and grants and things like that. And so kind of build some connections with the mentoring committee and make sure we are like providing a diverse set of outcomes without overlap. And so I'm also on the mentoring committee, and I think it might be useful at one of the future meetings to have the CWAE leadership attend that, so that we kind of have a joint vision for how we want to design our activities for this year. One of the other things that sort of come up in the conversations in the board have been just that, new entrants into AEA, graduate students and early career professionals coming in, can feel lost when they come to, and intimidated when they come to a meeting like the AEA, and that can be a bit of a turnoff, and they may decide this is not for them. So I think that's an area where sections can play a really important role in providing that welcoming home for them and reaching out to them. That's something just to think about, how, we haven't fully sort of thought how we should do that. We're thinking of having, at least as a starter, like a, first timer label, like one of those things that people can put on their name tags, so that you can, if you're at the meetings, you see somebody with that, kind of reach out to them and talk to them and make them feel at home. There might be other ways that if that this, I don't know if we can actually do this, but if the based on the registrations, we know who are the first timers, and we might be able to kind of fan them out to the different sections that they might be interested in, or something like that, that kind of gives them a point of contact over here, so they're not just on their own finding their way around. So that's just something to maybe think about, how we might welcome them into the profession and the meetings. That's basically what I have. And if there are questions, I'm happy to answer. And if there are issues you'd like me to take back to the board, I'd be happy to do that as well.
Thank you very much. I know we're all looking forward to working with you as the next president and with the executive board. Are there any other questions from our meeting attendees from Madhu?
I did have a, thinking about this, how we might welcome new members and not necessarily just new members, even it could be junior members in the profession. One thing that that ARI is trying to do is try something like a buddy system, and that would be we tried this with ARI even for the virtual format, and the willingness to participate was overwhelming. We had more senior members in the profession volunteer than we had graduate students, and this was a graduate student initiative. But the idea being you're randomly paired with a more junior or a newer member of the profession, and you just kind of find each other at the first reception. So it could be the first reception, then you find a way to connect them with people who have a wider network, can at least introduce people to their network and just go around and do that as an initial contact. The other thing that we did, which I think was fairly successful this year, was like a random lunch matchup, which we were able to do virtually as well, which can be done in person more easily. So have a sponsored one-on-one lunch, and you find your buddy in the at the conference, and just doesn't even have to be a lunch, because AEA meetings are larger than the small ARI meetings are much smaller, but it could be a coffee, or it could be just going in and meeting. I think that could work reasonably well, and most senior people in the profession are often willing and happy to do this. So that could be one way to try and facilitate that process.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. And I'll certainly, we have Kathleen Liang, who's chairing our mentoring committee here, just joined the meeting as well. And certainly something that we can take into account. We are already, this year, the mentoring committee started a matchup program where this was for the first time, where there were about 100 plus 150 mentees that were matched up with about 50 or so mentors, and to start building like a relationship, essentially. That I think most of them are more like probably more like grad students, but there might be some early career people as well. And so this could be, and we're actually in the process of creating some guidelines and guidance for the mentors and the mentees on what what sorts of things they might expect to do, and how the mentors might mentor them. And because this is also really, good initial, it's like somebody described it, like a bit like speed dating, right? You can meet a few people and get to know them, and find the right mentor for yourself, and so on. So I think those are just good touch points at the reception or at coffee or lunch to get to know people. So that's a great idea.
That's really good to hear that there's guidance in develop, and I'll speak as a humble graduate student, but I think whenever we see these calls, we don't know as graduate students whether or not we qualify as early career. And then I think, at least speaking for myself, I'm always unsure of what you have to have in hand to qualify for a mentorship relationship. And do I have to have research that's at a certain stage? And perhaps people who could benefit most are nervous and embarrassed and don't want to form those connections. So just a who should do this kind of a call, I think would go a long way, just to let graduate students know they're eligible and that they can.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what we're going to do, because both sides have exactly the same questions. Just like the grad students don't know, do I qualify as a mentee? There are many members of the profession who don't know whether they qualify as a mentor. and many people feel like they might still need mentoring themselves. So I mean, we really want to make it open. Anybody, if you want to be mentored, it's open to all. And if you want to mentor, you don't need to have any specific qualifications. It's really a willingness to spend the time to do it, and it's more about a willingness to build a relationship with a person. It's not about research or anything specific, but you can offer whatever advice you can. So that's the idea. But I think we'll make it much more clearer now. We didn't realize that people didn't take it for granted, automatically know it. Yeah.
The meet and greet is going on right now, right across from this room. And then many people just walk in. And then many people didn't sign up to do the meetup. They all talk to each other right now across the room. So I think the function is there, and the more clarification will help people to participate.
Yeah. Yeah, the timing is always the challenge. Yeah, there's just too many things going on at the same time. That's an issue. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Thank you. And I also want to take a moment to thank the board and Dawn in particular for supporting CWAE and COSBA efforts to get the childcare subsidies for this year's annual meeting and on-site childcare for next year, as well as supporting the continued survey efforts and our mentoring program, which is still sort of in the works. We're trying to add a mentoring program that will help bring undergraduates into more graduate programs. So we're still sort of reworking that. It was a challenge through the pandemic, getting in touch with folks and not being able to travel, especially for undergrads, not being able to travel as well. So we're still working on that and hoping to work much more closely with the mentoring committee on that to streamline and coordinate our efforts. Some other new business will also be talking some more as part of our nominations committee, thinking about an internal nominations process. And this is a discussion that we started having with the executive board and Dawn last year, as well as thinking about a lot of folks who don't have nominations committees within their departments or apparatuses within their departments to help them put together nominations for the AAA fellows and AAA awards. And so what CWAE and or COSBA or the association itself might be able to do to help those folks get nominations packets put together without necessarily burdening our membership with a lot of extra work. So just looking for some synergies there and definitely open to ideas about how we might handle that. And then also about how we, again, could formalize and introduce more transparency into the process of how CWAE might select folks to nominate or to recommend for AEA awards and fellow. Any thoughts on that or questions?
Joyce, are you considering sort of putting together guidelines for how to nominate oneself, or what might be the criteria, or what to keep in mind, or is it active support in putting that package together?
I think it could be both. We have definitely discussed at least, some folks being willing to share their nomination packets that have been successful so that people are more aware of what goes into a good nomination package. So certainly some of those just guidelines I think would be helpful. And then maybe for folks who say have been nominated once and weren't successful yet, it might be helpful to have it reworked with some other folks in our networks. So, but yeah, open to lots of different options there.
And currently that's just for the fellow, the AAEA fellow alone, right? That's the primary focus of this effort through CWAE.
Last year, that was our only effort, but in the future, we hope to expand it, I think.
Right.
To,
and the DEI awards, of course.
Of course, yeah. We also have talked some this year about updating the AAEA members in the news and how we can make sure that women are getting recognized and or identifying whether the issue is women not submitting or being less inclined to submit their news mentions to AAA members in the news, having less bandwidth or time to do that, or actually just being contacted less by media outlets for comments. And so trying to identify where the disparity is coming from so that we can address it more directly. And then also thinking about perhaps working with the communications committee to see if we could set up something like Google Alerts on AAEA members so that those media mentions could be automatically pulled in to AAA communications without having that extra step for members to go through individually. Any thoughts or suggestions there?
Joyce, this is Zoe. I will just say that in the mentorship committee meeting this morning, I don't know if Madhu's still in the room there in Austin, but Madhu did mention that this was something that the board is aware of as an issue and is something that they want to address, that disparity.
Great. And I have seen other professional associations provide some media training for their members. And so that might be something that we could think about as well, especially if we find that the disparity is women are not getting contacted as much by journalists. We also have a,
here, hold on, Joyce. Madhu's coming over to
oh,
the
great.
laptop.
Yes, we've discussed at the board meeting is that, so we have this really successful communicating out strategy where we are doing the members in news and publicizing the work that, this whole effort of encouraging our members to talk to the media and to have impact of the work that they're doing. But what we have noticed is that 95% plus are really male members that are in the news. And there is hardly ever, occasionally only, that you might see a female member of the profession being quoted. And so that's been sort of systematically observed and over time, and several people have brought it up. And so we're sort of thinking about, what we can do to remedy that and what might be the cause of it. I mean, it could be that that women are more hesitant to speak to the press. It could be, or it could also be that even when they are being quoted in the press, they may not feel like, bringing that up to attention of the AAA communication staff so that they get, often you have to kind of take that extra step to send it over to Alison there so that she can put it on that, although they do try to capture as much as possible, but maybe missing some things. And if it is because of hesitation and then maybe we should be thinking about how we can have some mentoring activity around that in just preparation for that hesitation and to be able to do it successfully, because it can backfire. So that's something communication committee could work on. If you all have an interest and would like to think about, collaborating with the mentoring committee, I think that would be also a useful thing to do. In the world of webinars, it can and they can be archived, and so they can benefit more people that might be able to attend, an in-person workshop. So just something to keep in mind as, planning your activities.
Thank you. Madhu, can I also ask, are you still looking for committee members for AA committees?
No, we do have a full slate of members, but honestly, I mean, I think if I don't think that we need to have a cap, and in some others committees, you can actually just volunteer to also attend them. I've done that in the past. I joined the mentoring committee as a volunteer, and so if you wanted to, there's nothing preventing you from joining a committee. So let me know if you are interested, and we can put you in.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I do recommend it's a great way to start getting involved with AAEA and see how things are working. So.
Okay. Oh, I was just gonna say, it might be interesting on the outside of who gets voted. That even if, because I go and I like farm, that's all, like 99% of that is looking at men for recommendations on what's the best farming practices and those sorts of things. So I would be interested, I mean, this may be deeper dive, I don't know, or I could help with this deep dive to look at, are women being quoted more actually maybe like more general press, but within the ag world, it's harder to get quoted and sought out as the expert. So I don't know that it's all, how much of it is, I guess, our supply side push, and how much of it is the demand side just being blind to women experts.
I mean, the member news is pretty broad. It's not just the ag publications that are, I mean, since I'm aware of it, I do make it a point to send, even whatever, anytime I'm quoted, and that could be in environmental magazines or whatever. So, and they're happy to do it, actually. So I think, I'm not sure if that's necessarily the issue. I think, I don't know what it is. I think it's just maybe fewer women. We often just, I don't know, in my personal senses, we tend to be a little bit modest. We don't, we need a little bit extra nudge to go out there and sell what we're doing, and have that. So be part of it. It could also be that there are fewer of us, but this is definitely disproportionately less. It's not just so. Yeah.
Thank you. I will also be, we had a proposal for the board to establish a separate CWAE website that we would have a little bit more control over and be able to add more content to, or be able to do it more flexibly. So that might be another way that we could help publicize activities of our members and of women in AAEA. So that's something to look forward to in the future. Hopefully that gets approved, and we'll be able to build that over the coming years. And then the final thing is just taking suggestions from any of you all in attendance about future activities you might like to see CWAE take on, or directions you might like to see us go that would be helpful to you, as well as, I think in this new sort of hybrid virtual environment, what kind of content is useful and how it's delivered or how it's made available to you, I think would be helpful for us to discuss as well.
Good in the room here.
Okay, I think Kate had hand up.
I just wanted to point out, and I think this is probably a bunch of people are aware of this, but Mark Bellmare and some colleagues led a really great open online seminar series last year over the pandemic. And it could be really neat to think about doing something out of this group as well. It could be thematic or just another opportunity. It could potentially be a less intimidating space for certain members also, if we were to do it out of this group, to have an ongoing online seminar for, I think it was largely early career faculty and graduate students who benefited from it. But I think, depending on the themes, one time there was a session with all the editors of the journals, and I found that tremendously helpful as someone, who's just starting out, trying to figure out how to get published. So things like that, it could be really neat to try and do that of this group, if there were bandwidth and interest.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And something that the graduate student section has brought up too is actually thinking about whether we could produce, and this feels out of my depth, but they were interested in advice on how to do Zoom interviews and Zoom seminars, which are a little bit different than doing them in person, but given the number of folks who are having to do that on the job market now, it would be really helpful to have some best practices about how to conduct those.
Absolutely.
Good on Twitter as well, and I know that I'm definitely liking to see some of you that follow on Twitter here today. I'm kind of curious if there are ways that community could be fostered, whether it's like, hey, we're all going to watch this seminar, tweet it, or having a coffee or tea hour or something really very inclusive and
what April said, I think I captured what you've got. So taking advantage of Twitter, our Twitter presence for more. Could you recap? Yeah, so April said we have a great presence on Twitter. Could we do things like live tweeting during seminars, having coffee hours, just creating more community? So maybe think about more kind of two-way communication on Twitter versus our current kind of one-way, CWAE tweeting out stuff.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm just actually, if maybe I'll try to do a quick poll here. If is Twitter the best? I'm not going to do a poll. Is folks can just chime in. Is Twitter the best platform? Because there's also been some discussion about whether we should, and again, our bandwidth is limited, but whether we should try to branch out to Facebook or some other platform, whatever the kids are using these days.
Show of hands in the room for Twitter.
Okay.
This is our favorite.
Twitter. Okay.
Oh, we got only one. We only have one. Well, I mean, Madhu says old people don't tweet. What are you instead, or maybe you're not on Facebook?
It's just about, I don't know, I kind of it's just kind of keep track of one more thing. Yeah, that's part of it. You don't see it. It's not good passive. It's really a time. It's really interesting you say that because as like a graduate student or someone who's junior, we're being pushed so hard, and the only people who don't have Twitter have the time. Like that, it's kind of like a requirement if you're young, and it's a privilege if you're older that you don't have to do it. I know. That's. Oops. And so I have practical it's definitely not perfect. I also think it's something I think as a graduate student, I put it down because I don't get as much email. Like especially because I think my email is ridiculous. And so when I was a grad student, I would I mean, but thank you guys for some way. I think I have a website and stuff like that. Could you talk a little bit more about how you're feeling like you wish to be on there? Yeah, so our department is actually trying to get us to not only be on to promote ourselves, but also to be like a promotion echo chamber and promote the department will promote us and we will promote the department and we will promote each other and like to try to be across. But like I said, this is something that like is falling on younger people because and I won't name names, but our AAU fellows don't all have Twitter accounts, but everyone else does. And I think that it's seen as a, like another way of promotion section. And not have every avenue of possible position, but yeah, just that's why I use LinkedIn. I have found, and I think for old professionals, like finding some more about it than LinkedIn. I wonder if you could see or something like that. Like the whole it is 100%. So, yeah. Unless you choose it.
Well, many people have concern about the way to craft messages on Twitter because it's 100% possible. You don't want to put the ambiguity and the bias statement intentionally, which comes back to create a negative perspective about who you are when you do. So I think that they're concerned about this message content itself. Not necessarily people don't do it. It's just because many people will think about what I tweet out there is really out.
Yeah. This is something that I think particularly, I feel that there are some fantastic women here who have strong voices and do a very good job of using their voices. But one thing that I personally have a hard time with is no one wants to hear what I have to say. And why would I take a stand, even if I know it's wrong, or why would I put myself out there because I don't have a position of power yet? And so like it's a very hard space to navigate. And sometimes it is not very nice, depending on what corner of econ Twitter you fall into, where they'll just like destroy working papers that haven't been published yet. But yeah, I think that there are some people here who are experts that do a very, very good job, but it is hard.
I don't think I follow you. I don't see your daily haikus. I'm gonna have to follow you now.
I'll just say,
Yeah, I'm a junior faculty. This is like my sort of second year in the world of academia. I think learning and choosing words for your time is really hard to do. And then empowering you to do different things. I think the point on Twitter is great for kind of self-promotion. Is it the best place for dialogue? Right? It's been really intimidating for graduate students, younger faculty members, that we're still very kind of filling up who we are in this world. Right?
I think maybe I just said Twitter because that's where I follow people.
And I totally get it because I felt the same. I was kind of a new person in this world, and it's, gotta be on Twitter, get on Twitter. And I'm like, I don't know. This is really good space to be right now, but I'm still developing as an academic.
This will be a great open forum discussion for next year's conference. Let's do some research and then search for the Twitter messages tweeted by different types of membership in AAEA, categorize it by gender, by subject, and frequency. And let's look at the situation, what's going on.
I don't know. Well, I also wonder if it isn't. Like we are careful to put ourselves out there because we are more likely to be trolled. We're more likely to have things turned on its head. And some people I do know, wonder we put up she put up the title for one of our sessions, and it's something like, the title was something like "Do Autonomous Making It." But she got trolled on it in minutes. And someone from some
somewhere said, oh, look, this is proof that academics don't know what they're doing. And then that made me, I mean, I actually was sitting there. I didn't want to do that or have that happen to me. Sorry. Oh, so anyway, I kind of wonder, this is, and so when do you do it appropriately, what does benefit you? You know, it's also like, even though I'm on, say, Facebook, I'm on it, you almost have to find out when something's happening to your kids these days, but I'm very careful there. I don't post my pictures much. I never post pictures of my kids. I just this whole thing. I don't know. Yeah. I'm risk averse.
All right, I think Leah and Sylvia, was it Sylvia?
Sylvia had her hand up first, so go for it, Sylvia, if you still have a comment.
Oh, sorry. I was going to comment about something else about the, or ask a question actually about the other ideas. So I'll hold off until after the social media. Thanks.
Mine's also not about social media, so we can just let me know when we're changing topics. It's hard to know when to interject.
I was just gonna say the advice, the most useful advice I got about Twitter was just to have an account so that you can be tagged and different things. If you don't want to curate a feed, you don't necessarily have to do that, but then at least you have your presence there. So I think that would be the place to start. You don't necessarily need to feel obligated to actually maintain a feed or build up a following or anything like that. All right, thanks everyone. I agree. This is definitely something we should delve into further. Sylvia, do you want to?
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of ask a general question, I guess. I've been talking, I just finished my PhD at Dyson. I've been talking with some of the other grad students in my program about kind of the advice that women get and a little bit about kind of different barriers and situations where we feel like less comfortable, like seminars and, you know, self-promotion and things like that. And one thing we're trying to think about how to do is like how to kind of talk about issues or how to kind of give advice, especially to men, but also kind of the broader community about how to be more inclusive to women. Like one thing we often get told is like, act more like a man, like be more confident or like do this more, instead of like recognizing that this is like not something that we're so comfortable with. And so the more that we're asked to like act like someone else, the less we want to be involved in this kind of atmosphere. And so we're trying to come up with like some kind of guidelines or tips for, you know, how to be more inclusive, especially to women, but a lot of this kind of goes over to like, or applies to other minorities as well. I'm not sure like if these kinds of initiatives have really been taken on before. So I'm first kind of wondering if anyone has specific resources to share. One thing I'm drawing on is the like Berkeley Women in Economics conference that happened a few years ago and some of the resources that they have. And then secondly, I'm just kind of wondering if this is something that CWAE would be more generally interested in kind of helping to formulate and circulate. Yeah.
I think this relates to Leah, what you were going to mention as well.
Yeah, it does relate to it. My question was kind of broadly about how we could collect the professional development resources that are now online, which were, you know, we had a lot online to begin with, but in the past year, the number of webinars and, you know, presentations that have been done have exploded. And so finding a way to collect those in one piece. And Sylvia, I agree, like specifically thinking about advice for people that want to be strong allies in promoting diversity and inclusion. That could be one type of resource that we're collecting. I'm curious, like, does anyone know of someone who's already working to collect these types of resources in one place? I've seen a few little things on Twitter here and there.
May I respond to some of this? Okay, this is Zoe. A couple of things, just thinking that, you know, I was recently talking to Sarah Jacobson about some of the work that she's doing in the space for gathering resources. So I think it would be good for us to reach out to her on this. But also, there's some of the AEA resources, which are, the diversifying economic quality and things like that. And I know that some of Sarah's work is like, how do we make some of this, there's so much information there, how do we make some of this like more tailored to, agricultural, environmental and development economists specifically. So I think there's something to do there. And I would see that as really valuable for CWAE to participate in some way. But the other thing I was just going to mention back to Sylvia's idea is something that I've seen happen at Ohio State University is these, trainings for men by men on allyship. That model is not something that I think we've pursued in any context within AAEA. And so I wonder if partnering with an organization or a group or folks maybe who are within the membership who are men who have that experience, which we might have some within the membership, to be able to lead some trainings could be a valuable way to address some of what you're saying, because those models do exist. It's just a matter of organizing them within our context. So I really appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you. Other suggestions? Yeah, I think at a minimum, as I mentioned in the comments, having a standalone CWAE website would allow us to at least do some of this in a disorganized way, right? To have all of our Twitter stream on the website, so you don't have to go through Twitter, right? And so, or, allowing folks to just send in links to things that we can post somewhere on a community page or a bulletin board or something would even be a good start. Other, Simla?
Hi, everybody. I tried to follow the social media commands, and if I haven't heard them, I mean, I really tried with the closed captions. So please reach out to us in some of these things. One thing about account Twitter is we do know that some of these parts of the account Twitter is quite toxic. So with the CWAE account, we are just following very specific people. We're promoting things in a very specific way, trying to stay away from the toxicity. But we noticed that some people really don't want to promote themselves on Twitter because they are like afraid of that type of reaction. And I know a lot of my colleagues are specifically on LinkedIn because they are afraid of Twitter and what can happen. We don't have a LinkedIn account, and we can definitely consider that for the future. So please reach out to us for this type of social media commands so we can better serve our community. But we have noticed some of the comments that have been raised in the room about the toxic places in Twitter and how women get a lot of like negative reaction, etc. The other thing is there's a lot of like shyness among women that we have reached out to promote them on our Twitter. So we are being a little bit extra humble, and they are like a little bit afraid to promote themselves, and they're like asking constantly, is it okay if I add this or that? So I think like there's definitely some change in behavior that we can do ourselves, which I had to learn to overcome myself as well. So can you reach out to us specifically about the social media, and we can take that into consideration? Thank you.
Thank you. And Madhu had an answer for us on the website. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, Madhu.
Come on over.
So we did discuss this idea, the proposal by CWAE, to have a separate website at the board meeting, and we felt that we were not sure, of really why you wanted a separate website versus just having a more elaborate separate web page on the AEA website itself. I mean, maintaining and creating a website requires a lot of resources, and maintaining it is not easy. And with, for any organization, and one in which the leadership is transitioning every, 2 years, a year later, it's just easier to have, it would be much easier and cost effective to just have a page on the, I mean, there's already is a page, right? And so to provide content, and the AEA EDI staff are more than willing to work with you to post whatever you like on it, and you can, do what you want with it. But so that's, so I wasn't sure, you know, what the rationale was for actually having a whole website of your own that would be standalone apart from the AEA website.
I think part of it was just ease of access. So without having to go through the extra step of emailing somebody to add content or change format, just having a little bit more fluidity in the management of the website. And given that we have been maintaining our CWAE, I should say, has been maintaining our Twitter feed for several years now across several leadership transitions. So I feel pretty confident that that's something we would be able to continue with a website as well. But I'm happy to take this, we can have a further discussion about this with the executive board if that's.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful to understand better. So sure.
Thanks.
Oh, I was just gonna chime in on the website. I know that there have been things that I've asked to, and this is not a critique of the staff, because I know our AAEA staff are working with a lot of different people, but when I've asked for something to be posted and then it hasn't been posted in the way that I want. I don't want to bug people. Here's me being a shy woman, right? Okay, I don't want to bug people and be like, oh, can you correct this? I'm like, oh, I'm nitpicking. Whereas if I could just go in myself and change it and make sure everything we wanted to have up there was there, that would be great. And I know we've wanted to be more, I think, dynamic maybe in what we're posting, and just feel like, well, these AAEA staff members don't just work for us, they work for everybody, right? And so wanting to ensure that we can use that website kind of dynamically and actively, maybe more so than other sections do, and wanting to be kind of fair and equitable about that in terms of how AAEA staff time is used. So that I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, well, I can certainly, discuss that more with at the board meeting, the next sort of board meeting, because we do meet frequently, and then with the EDI staff and see what's possible and whether they can in fact support a more active, content updating and things like that. I just know from other, just trying to work with other people on campus, that creating a website which has all the functionality that you need, can be expensive and it has its own need for time and resources and things. So, so that's also something to consider. But I think that's good to know, and we can continue this conversation to see what would work best.
Thank you. We have a few minutes left. Is there any other suggestions folks want to make for future activities for CWAE? Okay.
Joyce, can I give a quick plug for something that is not specifically CWAE related? I asked the AAEA organizers, the staff were very gracious, if we could have 2 virtual receptions, one each night at the same time as the reunions, for those who are attending AAEA virtually and feel like they're missing out by not getting to party it up at the reunions and receptions. So I'm looking for one more host for that. I'm happy to host one night. They'll each be an hour. They're going to put them in the schedule on the platform. So thank you to the AAEA staff. But if someone else would be willing to host a Zoom meeting, let me know. I just want to get them set up and on the calendar, and hopefully maybe see some of you there for a little bit of a virtual happy hour. These will be virtual only, and not be specific to any particular organization or unit or anything like that.
Great, thank you.
I have one more thing. We normally get a picture at our meetings.
Oh, right.
I think you should get one. So you're on our projector here, so we can all stand around the screen, and I'll put a timer on my phone, and we'll see if we can get a kind of cheesy, our first ever Flex meeting photo.
Awesome, that's a great idea, Kelly. Thank you.
You're online if you want to turn your camera on if you are able to do so.
Come on, Lurleen, Mary, we want you in our photo.
Oh, there you go.
Thanks, gang.
I don't think Lurlene's gonna join with the photo. I think we don't create pressure and we just let people do what they want to do. They're here. We'll know it in the photo.
3, 2, 1. Some people are a little
Thank you for humoring me.
Thank
I'll
you.
tweet that out later today.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining us for the business meeting and for all that you do to show up and support CWAE. I really appreciate it and have enjoyed working with everyone and look forward to continuing to do so in the future. So have a great time at the meetings and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.